Okay, this is the last homework assignment, sections 3.2 and 3.3. This is the voiceover with explanations of how the values were derived. All right, first thing we're asked to measure the central tendency. The easiest value to calculate when it comes to measures of central tendency is the range. The range is simply the largest values the data in the data set subtract the smallest value. Straightforward. In this set of numbers here, 51 is the largest, 11 is the smallest, 59 minus 11 giving you a range of 48. In number two, largest value is 1435, smallest value 5 and a quarter, difference is 910. Largest minus smallest, that's the range. Measures of central tendency. There's two types, two different ways, two different values. One is called the variance and one is called the standard deviation. Standard deviation is more widely used than the variance. Normally, you calculate the variance first, take the square root of that, and that gives you your standard deviation. Here, I'm asking you for the variance. Well, the calculator doesn't give you the variance. What you need to do is take the values, in this case, these five numbers, put them into the list, go to calculate one variable stat, look for S of X. That's the sample deviation. Now, how did they calculate to get this? It's solved behind the scenes. It's solved for the variance, which you have a formula back in the PowerPoint. I'm not asking you to use that formula, but the calculator found the variance and then took the square root of that to give you this answer of 8.0. You need to work backwards. You need to tell me the variance. Given that 8 is the standard deviation, you square that value. In this case, 8 squared is 64. That's the variance. Same thing for number 4. You have the five numbers. You put them into a list. You go to calculate one variable stat, list 1, list 2, whatever you're using. It gives you S of X, sample standard deviation of 9.39. You square that, and that gives you your correct variance of 88.2. The reason that standard deviation is more widely used is that variance is a square value, square feet, square inches, square dollars. You see some more. What does that mean? This is why folks take the square root of that and you use the standard deviation as a value. All right, 567 straight out. I'm not looking for the variance any longer. I'm simply looking for the standard deviation. Well, your calculator will do that for you. There's no need of using that formula where you're finding the mean and subtracting each value from the mean and squaring that in, summing those. No, just put the numbers into your calculator. All right, list 1, list 2, whatever list you want to use. Go back to stat, calculate one variable stat. S of X standing for sample standard deviation. You see 5 is 5.2, spot on. You see number 6 is a 13.11, and you see number 7. The correct standard deviation is 9.8. What could be simpler? Put some numbers into a calculator, go to stat, calculate one variable stat. Is there. Here's our old friend, the frequency distributions. All right. Can't say this enough. Frequency distribution will have two columns. It'll have classes and then it'll have frequencies. You can't use these values, so you need to cut your losses in half. You find the midpoints of each one of these classes. But I want to show you here, look at this value here, 27,500.5. Now, when you enter that into your calculator only has room for 5 places, so it rounds up 27,500.5 to 27,501. And people freak out. Oh, I didn't put that. No, trust me, the calculator knows what you put in. It just only has X amount of places, so it does the rounding. It uses the correct number that you inputted in the calculation. But when it shows here, it shows it correct to 5 places, so don't freak out about that. All right, so I put my midpoints in my L1. I put my frequencies in L2. I go to stat, calculate one variable stat, and there's my standard deviation for this frequency distribution. Same thing with number 9. I found the midpoints here. Remember, once you find the midpoint of the first class, and you know the class width, in this case it's 4, once you find the first one, just keep adding 4. That's a fast way of doing it. You put the midpoints in your list 1, you put your frequencies here in L2, you go to stat, calculate one variable stat, there it is, 4.8. Sometimes we like to use relative position versus the entire set of values. And this is percentile. If you scored in the 80th percentile, means you scored better than 80% of anybody else who took that test. There's a little formula to calculate percentile. Here it is over here. In the PowerPoint, they call this B over N. B stands for the number of values less than your target value, divided by the total number of values you have, and you multiply that by 100. Notice he's saying round to the nearest whole number. Right? You know how to round. You've been rounding since grammar school. If the digit in the tens place is 5 or higher, you round up. If it's not, you just drop it. They call it rounding down. Rounding off and rounding up aren't one and the same. The reason I say that is when we're given the percent, when we're given a number, we want to find out what percentile it falls into. I'm sorry, when we're given a percentile, want to find out what number fits that profile, we're going to always round up. It's different. Many cases, it's different than rounding off. Here's the deal. First thing I needed to do is to put these values in order from smallest to largest. My target number is 55, all right? So how many numbers are smaller than 55? Well, there are three, 30, the 38, and the 44. How many numbers are there total? 7. 3 over 7, as the formula says, multiplied by 100. Now, obviously, what happened here is I came out with 43 to the nearest whole number, rounding off. All right. Number 11, it took me a little time here to put these numbers in order. My target number is the number 6. The first time I see the number 6 is right here. How many numbers are less than 6? Well, there's 7 of them. How many total numbers? 20. Multiply that by 100, round it to the nearest whole number, 35. It's in the 35th percentile, the number 6. Kind of makes sense. All right, this number 6 is bigger than 35% of all the other numbers here. All right. Now, for 62, it'd have to be somewhere out here. Now, the formula says it's the number of values less than your target number divided by how many numbers you have. Well, here, he says, hey, the number 89.2, what percentile does that fall in? Well, it tells you there are 138 numbers smaller than 89.2. Didn't have to count, he told us. How many numbers all told? There were 200. 138 over 200 times 100, as the formula says, is 69. He's looking for quartile 3. Now, a couple of ways of doing it. You could put those numbers in order and put 75 over 100 because Q3 is the same as P75. I tell people, think of the Q as being quarters. All right, 3 quarters, 75 cents, 75th percentile. Probably the easiest way, I think, is put these numbers into a list, and the calculator will give you Q1, Q2, and Q3. Looking for Q3, 61. All right, that's probably the fastest way of doing it. Here's what happens with 14, 15. Rather than giving you a number and asking you what percentile it's in, they give you a percentile. They want to know what number fits that qualification. Well, there's a formula, all right? It says L equals. Now, what's L stand for? L stands for location. So when you do this little computation here, it's not going to give you the answer straight out. It's going to give you the location of the answer. Is it in the 5th position, the 6th, the 8th, and so forth? It's K over 100, where K stands for the percentile. In this case here, your percentile is 16. So 16 over 100 times N, which is how many numbers you have, comes up to be 4.8. Now, here we're asked to always round up. Even if you were rounding off, you got 4.8, the 8 is bigger than 5, you would round up to 5. So I'm trying to say here, if I had done this calculation and it came out to, let's say, 4.2 or 4.3 or even 4.4, 4.1, when you're finding the number, the location, you always round up. In this case, it was a no-brainer because you would have rounded 4 point up to 5. But just to make you aware, if this was 4.2, 4.3, I still would have gone up to 5. I'm rounding always up, not off. So that's the location of my answer. It's in the 5th position. The location, 5th position. The number in the 5th position is 6.1. P85, all right? So you put 85 over 100, it's K over 100 times N, which is 40 in this case. Now what happens here, we do the calculation, you get a whole number. That flowchart said if you get a whole number, the location of your answer is in that location, averaged out with a number in the next location, higher location. So what I'm doing is taking, since this is a whole number, I had to take the value in the 34th position, average it out with the value in the 35th position. All right, so halfway between 87 and 89, the average would be 87, halfway between. Add those two, divide by 2. Box plots, there's ways I can have my calculator actually construct that box plot. Not necessary. It's called a 5-number summary as well as a box plot. And what it wants for a 5-number summary, it wants the minimum value, it wants the maximum value, it wants quartile 1, it wants quartile 2, and it wants quartile 3. All right, so this is not a big deal here. Obviously, the low value and the high value is a no-brainer. There's the low value, there's the high value. What you're needing to do is find Q1, Q2, which is the median, and Q3. Probably the guaranteed way of getting this right is don't even play around. Is put those, in this case here, those 30 numbers into your calculator. Go to calculate one variable stat. Now you could kind of monkey around with this. There's probably fastest ways. You look at these answers here. They all have the right low and the right high, but they differ between Q1, Q2, and Q3. Let's say I wanted the median. There's 30 numbers, so it's an even amount. So there's two middle numbers, the 15th and the 16th. I would average out the 15th and the 16th number. In this case here, the 15th number would be 7.0. The 16th is also 7.0. So halfway between 14. 14 divided by 2 is, you see, it's 7. What that would do for you, it makes it would be letter B, and now you're still stuck with letters A, B, and C. So you could find all these individually, but my suggestion is, it take you a minute, maybe take you 40 seconds. Put these values in your calculator; it'll give you the answer. The only way you would file this up is if somehow you entered the wrong numbers. Location, it's the percentile over 100 times how many values you have. Same thing here. Granted, there are 40 numbers. I could find the mean on my own. I know the low is 25. I know the high is 98. So that's going to be pretty consistent. They'll always have those. All these have a low of 25 and a high of 98. 40 numbers. So halfway between the 20th and the 21st number. And you're going to see, there's the 20th number. There's a 21st. You add that up, 144 divided by 2 is 72. You know it's either going to be letter C or D. You could do the same thing for quartile 1. The quartile 1, P20 is the same as P25. 25 over 100 is 1/4. 1/4 of 40 is 10. I would take the number in the 10th position, average it out with the number in the 11th position. So I would be adding 57 with 59 halfway between those two. You see quartile 1 is 58. So here's a case where I could have got to letter C pretty quickly. You don't want to hassle that. Put the numbers. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You want to get it right and know you're right. Put the numbers into a list, L1, L2, whatever, and she'll give you everything. You say, well, there's a lot of numbers there. No, that takes maybe 2 minutes, if that. Put those numbers in. But it's up to you. You do it individually, or you can just put them in and guarantee yourself the right answer. Same thing here. I could find the mean on my own. There's 32 numbers. So I take the 32nd. Let's see. The 32 plus 1 is 33. Halfway between 32, halfway of 33 is 16.5. So I would take the 16th number and the 15th number and average those two out. 114 plus 114, 228. Half of that is 114. What that would tell me, there can't be letter C nor can it be D. Then I could find quartile 1, which is 25 over 100. P25, quartile 1. 1/4 of 32, 8. Oh, eight's a whole number. So I'd have to take the number in the 8th position and average it out with the number in the 9th position. That would be 108. So you can see. A lot faster when I do it that way. But if I want to if I'm a little shaky on that, the workaround is put the 32 numbers in, let the calculator give you all of your answers. Exact same thing with number 19. There's a screenshot of me putting these 27 numbers into a list. Stat, calculate one variable, stat Q1, Q2, Q3. And all I'm doing is matching up. 2.5, there it is. Mean, 2.7, there it is. Quartile 3, 3.0, there it is. The low and the high number, those are no-brainers. There's your low and there's your high. I mean, you don't have to do any calculation. All right, that is that.